Okay, thank you all for holding. We are good to go. Apologies.
Okay, so I'll start back with the mission statement, and that's to communicate and advise the City Council on issues affecting neighborhoods. The policy recommendation is supporting amending the Unified Development Ordinance to allow replacement of manufactured homes where they were previously existed, update manufactured home definitions, and revise the table of usage. And the council adopted the amendments on 10/25/2022. Next slide. The summary of our accomplishments: we encourage staff to add a layer to the city's GIS map showing the boundaries of registered neighborhoods. And we revised the Neighborhood Recognition Award Program and recognized 3 Asheville residents as Neighborhood Volunteer of the Year at the November 15th City Council meeting, which was Angela Young from Hillcrest, Michael Stratton from Oakley, and Lee Avion from Grove Park Sunset Mountain Association. The increased neighborhood registration would be Beaver Dam Valley, 2804, the Wilds of Chung's Cove, 28805, and the Sulphur Springs neighborhood, 28806. Next slide. And our goals are promote and celebrate the neighborhoods through an Asheville Neighborhood Festival in conjunction with a National Neighbor Day celebration September 2023. To strengthen neighborhood organizational development, connect rental property owners with resources and information, encouraging acceptance of housing vouchers, support AFD and emergency preparedness program, raise awareness, connect communities with representatives from local emergency agencies, provide resources to assist neighborhoods in developing disaster preparedness plans, and connect emergency services with a network of neighborhood contacts for more direct communication during a widespread disaster. Next slide. And the Neighborhood Advisory Committee membership and meeting details. And there's a list. The president, Connect representing 28803 to 28704 is myself, and I'm the chair. And the member Connect representing 2805 is Sharon Summeroff, vice chair. The member connecting the representing at large is Peter Abzug, Elizabeth Likas, Elise Martin, and Jake Smith. And the member contact representative for 2801 is Michael Fulbright. And the member connect representing 2804 is Wendy Hamer. And we still have a vacancy for 28806 and 28708 zip codes. And our staff support staff liaison is Dawa Hirsch, communications and public engagement, CAPE director. Administrative liaison is Christina Israel, and the community engagement manager, CAPE. The meeting schedule is 6 p.m. on the 4th Monday of each month, in person at the first floor conference room, City Hall. Next slide, I think, is if there are any questions.
This is Kim Roney. I just want to say thank you, Babette. Now the chair of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. You were previously, if I remember right, the vice chair and timekeeper.
Yes.
And as council member, I appreciate the recommendations the Neighborhood Advisory Committee brings, but as your liaison, I appreciate attending the meetings because they are so informative and you cover a lot of material, whether it's the amplification of neighborhood issues or the celebration of neighborhoods through festivities and recognition of the standout volunteers in neighborhoods. It's invaluable work, and I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. And I wanted to say that first being the vice chair and then becoming the chair, then defining what a neighborhood advisory committee was very important, because we are concentrating on neighborhoods and what neighborhoods want to see, and to send recommendations up for what neighborhoods want, and to engage in more neighborhoods to be part of this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Babette, and thank you, Dawa. If you're just tuning in to our meeting today, we had some technical difficulties, so the beginning of the meeting may not be recorded, but you're tuning into the March 21st Equity and Engagement Council Committee. And we have a few guests here with updates on their advisory board updates. We just heard from Bobette May. She is the chair of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alana Smith, and she's going to introduce our other guest.
Thank you. My name is Elena Schmidt. I serve as the analyst in the Department of Equity and Inclusion, and I'm also the staff liaison to the Human Relations Commission of Asheville. It is my pleasure to introduce the chair of the Human Relations Commission for this presentation, Tanya Rodriguez.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you all of you who are joining us virtually today. My name is Tanya Rodriguez. I am the chair of the Human Relations Commission, grateful chair, and look forward to bringing you updates of what we're doing today. And next slide, please. Thank you. HRCA Purpose. Our purpose is to promote and improve human relations and achieve equity among all citizens in the city by carrying out the city's human relations program. To prioritize racial equity and work with the city government and partner with communities and outside agencies in an effort to encourage and ensure diversity, fairness, equity, and inclusion throughout the city, and to identify and assist in addressing all forms of individual, institutional, and community discrimination through education, advocacy, and policy recommendations. Next slide, please. Our duties in the HRCA are make policy recommendations to the City Council which promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the city. Support the city's Office of Equity and Inclusion, provide a forum where residents of Asheville can raise issues and complaints relating to human relations in the city. 4, engage the community regarding the utilization of city-funded programs and policies for the promotion of human relations. And 5, promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the following areas: public safety, education, art and cultural opportunities, economic development, health and human services, and housing. Next slide, please. Our goals for the HRCA we made in our retreat in 2022. Was the retreat in 2022 or 2021?
December 2022.
2021. So we've been working on these goals for quite some time, and they have evolved a bit as our HRCA contracts and expands and continually evolves. And so we have some key actions in our goals, and we have a few different community HRCA working groups or committees that are addressing each specific goal. So we have intergovernment relations who are working within building relationships with city council, incorporating expertise of community leaders, and with training seminars and ongoing City of Asheville department updates and accountability. We also have community engagement, which are seeking to bring HRCA information booths in local events, to create a resource guide where we've got a lot of community resources in one place, to bring classes regarding housing, employment, leadership, and many issues that affect our community today. We also seek to establish and foster a relationship with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. to invite the voice of the ECBI in the city of Asheville, supported by the HRCA. We also have addressing housing issues. One of the major key actions for our addressing housing issues committees to prohibit houseless encampment removal during inclement weather, and advocate for low barrier shelter year round, protect and provide housing shelter for our houseless community, and examining houselessness, housing supply, affordable housing in order to influence affordable housing policy. Hopefully that is something that we can collaborate on with Bobette, which would be a really great unifier amongst boards and commissions. There's also examining systems, examining a wage gap, imagining other forms of public safety, help change our city charter to get our housing authority elected and not appointed is on there, and also improving HRCA, discussing in-person hybrid HRCA meetings for accessibility purposes, and working together with reparations and collaboration. Next slide, please. Our accomplishments in 2022 with the Human Relations Commission: we did remove inactive members. We moved restrictions on membership from the ordinance, and so we eliminated the number of attached to a demographic, or how would that be worded within that, Brad? Because we removed the number of people that are African American, and how would that be worded?
Yes, Madam Chair. So what the recommendation that came out of HRCA did, which City Council approved, was to remove the specific characteristics. There were some racial characteristics that they removed in favor of noting a preference for diversity in the full membership of the body.
Right. So we did remove the quota.
Yes.
That was attached to the different demographics that were listed for membership. Thank you for helping me get there, Brad. We also submitted a recommendation regarding source of income to the city of Asheville to add to the non-discrimination ordinance. We moved to in-person meetings. We reduced our membership from 15 to 9. We also moved to 6 meetings a year, held every other month, and we began that January this year. And we also just passed last week unanimously the Asheville Crown Act to protect natural hair from discrimination here in the city of Asheville. Next slide, please. Our upcoming goals and planning for 2023 is to update the HRCA work plan. A lot of us are cycling out of the HRCA, so we've got a lot of fresh blood, fresh ideas, and lots of stars in eyes. And so we're going to update that work plan to bring it up to date, to match the needs presently and the goals for our upcoming members. Building relationships with community continually and increasing visibility with the HRCA, to create and foster education and educational opportunities with the HRCA for community awareness of city departments of programs, creating policy recommendations to the City Council to reduce barriers to equity for all peoples of Asheville, collaborate across current boards and commissions on recommendations and or initiatives put forth by Asheville boards and commissions and foster a strong sense of community in the Asheville Human Relations Commission to model human relations to Asheville and the city of Asheville. Next slide, please. And that is our presentation and our update for the Human Relations Commission. Are there any questions? Thank you, Elena, for putting this presentation together. And thank you, Brenda, for being a strong support and advocate for the HRCA.
This is Kim. I just want to say thank you, Tanya, as chair, for your leadership. As a council member, the recommendations provided by the commission are invaluable. And as your liaison, I appreciate the intention of the membership as you gather around the table for challenging conversations you're having with your mission that reflect the challenges we face as a city. The opportunity to be in the room with you has added to my understanding, both as a representative and as a neighbor. So please extend my gratitude to the group. I did want to shine a spotlight on one of the conversations that was happening in the HRCA meeting last week was around accessibility of meetings, which we have brought up at this committee level. And because of the way that folks were bringing to the conversation, not just their concerns as current members, but also concerns as we try to recruit and retain new members, that it's possible that two things are true at the same time, that it is both a barrier to participate if you don't have access to transportation or childcare, but it can also be a barrier to participate in virtual meetings if you don't have access to a fast or strong Wi-Fi connection. And I was able to bring forward that you could actually call in from a landline because there is a phone connection, but it was really helpful to hear from folks how the moving to a hybrid meeting could address some of the duality of those problems. And I'm really looking forward to being able to meet this moment with y'all by hearing and responding to the needs.
Thank you, Kim. I am cycling out in June, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you. And it's been an honor to serve with all of you in this capacity, and the wisdom and strength and grounded power that you bring into the room, Kim, is just inspiring. So thank you very much for not giving up on us and being there from the beginning and believing in our mission. I really appreciate you. Thank you for that. And thank you, Brad, for your unbelievably depth of patience. Your bottomless well of patience is something that I want to grow up to aspire to be. So thank you. Thank you, all of you.
All right, thank you to both our guests for being here, and thank you for the time and energy you put into all the work in all capacities. I know you all do more than just volunteer for this advisory committee, but you do a lot of work within the community, from youth development to organizing. So much appreciation to you in all your capacities. I'll kick it to Brenda Mills. She's going to give us an update from last night's community reparations mission and also talk more about the development of the scope of work for the audit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it, and welcome to everybody. We had a really great meeting. Katie, you can go ahead to the next slide. We had a really great meeting last night, and I'm going to talk about a few key takeaways, and then we'll get into the meat of the meeting. But last night, they looked at having presentations. What we're going to start doing is having presentations about all of the impact focus areas. So last night, we heard from education and health and wellness, and what is amazing about it is all of them are doing the presentation, not just the impact focus area facilitator, but the folks who are doing the work in those areas are getting up and doing the presentations, and they've done significant work. And so we want to continue to highlight that. That also allows other impact focus area members in other group on the other four groups to hear from everyone else. The CRC members of the CRC is the Community Reparations Commission members who worked on the audit scope working group. which would be Osanda Peters, Bobette Mays, Dee Williams, and Mr. Ben Oliphant. They gave a presentation on the scope and reviewed that for them. Heard a presentation on measuring the impact of urban renewal from Priscilla and Daya Robinson, Dr. Richard Marciano, who's from the University of Maryland, Dr. Mayon Lee, who's from George Mason University. And then we had a report out on a community engagement by staff and the project manager on next steps for outreach. Next slide, Ms. Katie. So as we talked about, we heard from two of the groups. Basically, we are not going into recommendations yet. They're just basically talking about the specific work they're doing, data they're using, concepts that they're thinking about. The commission also is allowed to ask questions, which is great. They end up asking really good questions and things for them to consider. The 4 members of the Audit Scope Volunteer Working Group provided a review of the scope of work, and we had no questions. There was no concern about how we approached it. They talked about our approach, the 3 meetings that we had. That meeting included staff, which is both our assistant city managers on either side for city and county, myself, and then the 4 working group people and the project manager. And then we developed that scope, and the timeline for that we'll get back into in a later slide. In terms of Priscilla Endias Robinson, I think many of you have heard about her work in talking about the Southside community and gentrification and all the things that happen with urban renewal. This has been a labor of love for her in terms of her community for, I'm thinking, over 25 years. I started hearing about this when I came to Asheville, within the first 5 years of coming to Asheville. There is information on video and a website, so we'll get that to you for you to check that out later. But they gave a really kind of overview of that. They will be going to several of the impact focus areas, specifically housing and economic development, to talk about this material. It was asked if she would be looking into other areas. I do know that UNCA and Professor Lawler, who's on sabbatical this semester, is working on doing some additional work around other areas, but it's tremendous work on what they've done. And then we, specifically our project manager, talked about, we came up with a 1-pager to provide to the commission members to hand out to community. We're also going to send it in email so that they can get that out to other members of the community. But we're looking at specific things to do, like specific sessions that would be, as Kim was mentioning, we want accessibility to be there. So some of them will be virtual, some of them will be in person, looking at having some panel discussions. And we want to continue to listen for 2 things. One, we want to hear storytelling and the information that people want to share about the history of urban renewal in Asheville and the harms that were caused. But we also want them to start looking at the recommendations that are being considered so that they can weigh in on those as well. Next slide, Katie, thank you. So we talked a little bit about, I mentioned that we have got our scope back to the commission last night. And so we're going to take the next few weeks to finalize and advertise for the solicitation. Just a reminder that the county will be handling the procurement for this. So they will be putting that out on the behalf of the city and the county. Spring and summer, we're looking mostly late spring, maybe for evaluation and selection. The 4 members of the Community Reparations Commission who helped us with the scope will be helping us with the selection. And then fall and winter, sometime around that. That all depends on when the response comes back, what they think they will need in terms of time to get the audit scope, the audit completed. And just a reminder, the audit is about the cessation of harm. So they're looking at local, state, and federal laws, court orders, decrees, anything of that nature, making sure that we are in alignment with that to assure the African-American community that we have ceased harm in those areas. And then ongoing, we will be giving updates to the Community Reparations Commission and this council committee each month. Next slide, Ms. Katie. So key takeaways, like I said, last night, heard wonderful presentations from the teams that represent education and health and wellness. The audit scope working group was tremendous in helping us do this. And what I appreciated really, Osandu spoke to it a lot, and so did Ms. Babette, that they learned a lot, and that was the goal, is for us to do it together, for them to go back and tell the group that they represented that we did this in a holistic way, in listening to them and their concerns or ideas that they had. And then the presentation by Priscilla is a long time coming for us. We will continue to work with her information and her data. And then the report out about community engagement was heard and really appreciated by the commission. And I think that's our last slide. I'll take any questions if you have any. Yes, ma'am. I'm Councilwoman Roney.
It's not a question so much as just a reflection, to be able to be in the room last night and hear Priscilla's presentation. It was another opportunity to pull the stories and the data together. The data is needed, and it validates the stories that I've heard so many times before. And I just wanted to point out that the handout that she gave is available as part of the documents, right, for their meeting.
Are you talking about the crosswords paperwork?
Right.
Yes, it is electronic, and I believe I have some copies, but I know it is electronic.
So if folks look up, if they're following along to this meeting and look up Community Reparations Asheville, it takes you to the ashevillennc.gov city's website, and you can access the recordings. You can see the presentation from last night's meeting. You can access the Crossroads document, but also the website of Priscilla's work and group's work is urbanrenewalimpact.org.
Thank you.
All right, our meeting is almost up, but we're going to see if there's anybody in the speaker queue for public comment.
Let me check one moment. We do not have anybody in the queue.
All right, any final comments from committee members or staff? All right, if not, this meeting is adjourned.